Good morning, everyone. I'm standing in the big tent that we put up for the celebrations of Purim on Saturday night and Sunday night to accommodate all the people who will be celebrating Purim at Palm Beach Synagogue. We know the story of Purim. You have Mordechai, the righteous Jew, who stands up to Haman, the evil plotter of the genocide of the Jewish people. But there's a fascinating passage in the Talmud. The Talmud says that a person has to drink on Purim to the point that he does not know the difference. He cannot distinguish between blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman. And the question is, the whole message of Purim is that there's good and evil, and that we should know the difference, that there's a Mordechai who would not bow to Haman, and there's the evil Haman who plots to destroy the Jewish people, and then every generation we have to fight against the Hamans of the generation. Why would the Talmud say you should drink to the point that you don't know the difference between blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman? And perhaps the answer on a deeper level is that when you read the story of the Megillah tomorrow night in the synagogue and then Sunday morning, you read a story with many twists and turns along the way. It reads like a novel. And a matter of fact, the name of God is not in the book of the Megillah. It's the only holy book of the 24 books of Tanakh that God's name is not mentioned. And our rabbis tell us, because the whole message of the story of Purim is that sometimes things appear on the surface to be coincidental, accidental, natural, but God is orchestrating all the events behind the scenes. And therefore, when you read the story, sometimes something may appear as good, like Haman being invited to the party with Queen Esther and Achashverosh, and he says, wow, I was the only one honored to come to this special party. Little did he know that that party would be his end, that at that party Esther would tell the king, this wicked man wants to destroy the Jewish people, and he would be hanged in the gallows. Or when Haman makes the 50-foot tree gallows to 50 amot to hang Mordechai, you say, this is bad. But little do we know how good it's going to end up being, that he was actually preparing his own gallows to be hanged on, that he would be the one who would hang in the tree that he built, or the pole that he built to hang Mordechai. So too, when Haman comes to the king, and the king says, what should I do with the person that the king wants to honor? And Haman says, he must be talking about me. Little does he know that he will be parading Mordechai around in the streets of Shushan and saying, this is the one that the king wants to honor. When Mordechai informs to the king through Esther that there are two people plotting his death, and he records it in the book of Chronicles, but Mordechai is not rewarded. He must have thought, this is terrible, I was overlooked, I did not receive a reward. Little did he know that that would be the beginning of the downfall of Haman, when the king couldn't sleep at night. Or when the people in Shushan got up in the morning, they said, you hear, the king killed his wife Vashti because she wouldn't appear at the party. Little did they know that was the beginning of the miracle of Esther being chosen. And so too the message is that in life there are things that look like blessings, or people that look like blessings. And then there are things that appear to be a curse. There's the good and the bad, the villain and the hero. And while we have to acknowledge and live in reality and know the difference between good and bad, on a deeper level, on Purim we come to the point that we recognize that really there is no difference. Blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman. Because ultimately everything is from God. And even what seems like a curse could actually be a blessing. We just don't know it. And what seems like a blessing could actually turn out to be the opposite of a blessing. And therefore, ultimately, there's only God. There's the good, the bad, and the godly, which is behind what we perceive as good and bad. And ultimately, on Purim, we come to the deepest faith and the deepest recognition that everything is from Hashem. Tell a story about a farmer who had one horse that he relied on daily. And one day the horse ran away, and his neighbors came to him and said, this is terrible. You lost your one and only horse. And his response was, we'll see. The next day the horse came back with a whole fleet of stallions that are brought back to the farmer. And now the neighbor said, this is wonderful, this is great, this is fantastic. And the farmer said, we'll see. And the next day, his son went riding on one of the stallions, and he got thrown off the horse and broke his leg. And his neighbor said to him, "This is terrible." And he said, "We'll see." And then the next day, the government officials came to recruit his son for the army. And they saw that he had a broken leg, and they did not recruit him. And then they said, obviously, this was all for the good. And so too in life, we jump to conclusions, what's good and what's bad. Purim reminds us, wait and see what Hashem has in mind. Have faith, have hope that everything will be for the good. Have a wonderful Shabbat.